Welcome back. Here with us on Halftime Report. Quick check on the market. It's actually quite okay. The Nifty is now trying to find some momentum again. A little bit of an uptick there, about 60 points higher. Bank Nifty is still underperforming, but it's all about the IT stocks today. And they continue to take leadership position. HCL Tech, for instance, the gain is almost 8% as we speak. So looking good over there. And some of these FMCG stocks that we were just discussing with Mangalam, Lever, Eternal, Nestle, there's a fair amount of buying even in this side of the market. Speaking of FMCG, good time to then take a deviation and move towards commodities. We have Manisha joining in, and as promised, she has Mr. Sanjeev Asthana, President of the Solvent Extractors Association of India, with her today. Manisha.
Well, thank you so much for that, Surbi. And there's so much to talk about when it comes to FMCG, but I'm going to focus on the edible oil as a sector right now. Mr. Asthana, thank you so much for joining in. And I'll start with the kind of tie-up that you've recently done with the TechnoServe. This is to do with increasing fortification when it comes to edible oil as a sector. What is it about? And I'll begin with that. And what does it mean to you as an industry and an association?
So, Manisha, thanks. I think you've picked up a very good subject. India, as you know, is passing through its own challenges on the micronutrient deficiencies, and fortification is one of the key tools that has been used by different sectors. Edible oil in particular, has been doing, fortification with vitamin A and D for long years. TechnoServe is a US-based, organization, not-for-profit, which focuses large parts of their energy on nutrition. They work across the world in different continents, different segments. They run a very unique program called Millers for Nutrition, which essentially partners with millers across the world in different areas. So, for example, in this case, for solvent extractors, it is with all the refiners of edible oils in the country. And the idea being that, they would be able to bring in the best practices on fortification. They would be able to do a lot of, capacity building of the millers in the way the best manufacturing practices ought to be followed. And likewise, the best, the global hygiene practices they would be bringing to the table. And C is a perfect organization for them to partner with in the country to take this forward.
Mr. Asthana, there's just so much that I want to speak to you about. One, of course, is fortification and this tie-up that you have done. The other is the C approaching the government to revive the non-GM soymeal exports to US. I mean, we do understand that there are lots of conversations happening right now. Various sectors also have given their representations to the government, which is in negotiation with US right now. How are you looking at the non-GM meals featuring into this?
Non-GM meals, we've been strongly recommending to the government that when we get onto the negotiating table with the US, earlier India had a fairly good program which was, targeted both at the European markets and occasionally to the US markets as well. US pays a very high amount of premium for the soybean meal, which is non-GM variety. And India is a perfect spot, to fill in that demand. And it helps us also because Indian meal is looking for new homes where we can export. And US can be a perfect candidate for that. So our only recommendation to the government has been that you should explore seriously as to how the Indian non-GM soybean meal can be part of the the FTA that is signed or whatever agreement we arrive at finally with the US, that we should be able to find new homes for Indian soybean meal, non-GM variety into the US markets.
Mr. Asthana, my third point of conversation with you is about the edible oil pouches of lower than a litre. I mean, I know this has been a discussion for some time now, and you guys have been talking about it. I remember C writing a letter in this regard as well. What really seems to be the concern right now, and is it anywhere close to getting addressed?
So concerns are twofold. In fact, last 2 days itself, we've been meeting a series of government officials. One that, under certain regulations, it was allowed, for the whole idea being that the consumer is aware of, what grammage they buy for. They're aware of the minimum retail price at which they're buying. But the fact remains, Manisha, that we all know that, in multiple different categories, the consumers in a lot of cases are not aware. So, for example, that when they buy a bottle of oil, they know that this is 1 liter. This is what we consume, and this is how we've been using it always. But it doesn't necessarily work out that way, and this has got reflected in very different ways, especially in the pouches. So the size of the pouch will remain same, but it has almost become like a race to the bottom, where from 910 grams, it continued to sort of go down. Now it's to a level of 850 grams, 810 grams, 750 grams. So our only recommendation to the government is that consumer, not in all cases, is as savvy to be able to determine as to what grammage he's paying for. And maybe perhaps the government should reconsider its order and try to bring certain amount of standardization to the grammage so that the industry players can play by the same rules. And it should benefit ultimately the consumer. So what we are recommending is very pro-consumer. Perhaps when the consumer becomes educated enough and is savvy enough or is extremely aware in terms of what exactly he's paying for, so then we can move on to that. But I don't believe that India is at a stage right now for consumer to be able to determine whether he's paying the same value for 850 grams or he's paying for the same 910 grams or even 780 grams. And I think that is something which is essentially not in favor of consumers, but is also helping unscrupulous elements within the industry to be also exploiting this loophole in some way or the other, and which is not helping the industry overall.
Mr. Asthana, I also want to talk about the prices now, because if you're looking at the palm oil prices now trading at almost at a 6-month lows, at par now, or perhaps a discount coming back versus the soybean and sunflower there. How have been the imports? We do understand Jan, Feb, March perhaps saw 3.5 to 4 lakh tons of palm imports into the country. Do you see this increasing, especially with the prices coming down? What's also your sense as we go into the summers in sense of edible oil imports?
So traditionally, the palm oil imports do tend to increase in the summers. And you're right that the palm oil imports were down. The main reason for that was it was trading almost at a very substantial premium to the soya and sun oil, and which is quite unprecedented. That market has corrected itself. So as we head into the summer season, the demand season picks up. We still have a marriage season in the month of right into the month of May. So my estimation is that not only with the imports of palm increase, I think palm will start buying back its share from soya as Indian soya crush season declines, as the the shipments out of South America continue. I believe that the palm oil imports should start to increase by at least 100 to 150,000 tons a month, and palm will start gaining its share versus both soya and sun.
Mr. Asthana, one final question, and this is on demand consumption growth going forward. We do understand that the PM has been pushing for it, and we've seen in any case the numbers decline. How do you read the overall numbers?
So numbers are, a function. I always believe that, how the consumers ultimately decide. And so while, Prime Minister's exhortation has been there in terms of lesser consumption, I believe that it was more to do with the prices earlier that we had on the inflation side. But as they tend to taper off, my feeling is the demand will sort of come back, and consumers will start responding quite actively, again. In terms of increased consumption. So my sense is that India this year, I'm talking of the full fiscal year, we should see consumption levels rising with the tapered edible oil prices as well. So we should see a substantial uptick in the prices. In the consumption this year.
In the demand, yes, absolutely. Mr. Asthana, I want to thank you on that note, because you've answered all of my questions and I've spoken on various issues here. But I appreciate your time here at CNBC TV18. And with that, it's a wrap on Halftime Report. Business Lunch will take all the action ahead.